Hey, check this out. Chuck D, Public Enemy #1, bringing the noise, and you are watching the Noise11.com, all right? #1.
And welcome to Noise11.com. Chuck D, Public Enemy, good to have you here.
Good to meet you, Paul.
And 7 times you've been telling me you've been down to Australia, so welcome back again.
It's our 80th tour in 25 years. And the first time that we set upon Down Under was 1990. And we were one of the first that actually made that then 17-hour trip from Los Angeles down to Australia and also New Zealand. So it's been a joy every single time, and even increasingly. So I've seen Australia go from a place that was, you can compare to a Canada. They were like sister countries. Now it's just one gigantic Hotel California.
that is for sure. And you've been very busy with Public Enemy with not one but 2 new albums coming out.
Yeah, the name of the albums in June we're releasing Most of My Heroes Still Don't Appear on those stamps, and it's basically it's something that speaks about protests, defiance, the Occupy movement. Has a lot of those things, and just is symbolic for the type of people that we've supported all throughout our years, and looked into their background in the past and the present movements, and those that have the energy for the future and resistance. And the second album is called The Evil Empire of Everything. And the underlying title of that is, just keep your head up. Attention is the cheapest price to pay. Especially in whippings of mass distraction coming from all angles. So these albums will be twins, not identical twins, but fraternal twins from the same parent. So, they'll be talking to each other, so it's up to us to listen in.
Were they recorded in one big slab?
Yes, they were recorded in one big slab, but in different parts of the country. 14 different collaborators, all tied into one hub electronically. 8, 9 different states. It was really a full use of the digital age that we're in today, because you have people that never even seen each other that were contributing minute by minute into the processing of a song. It was almost like the world became a virtual room. We used the earth as the virtual studio. And people would ask the question in the digital age, like, are you in the studio? I said, no, it's ridiculous. The studio's in you. So the studio is the earth and the studio's within. So that's what these 2 albums, the plan is to try to kind of like make these like almost a standard in the creation of in this method. So it's a lot of fun. I'm right in the middle of it. That's why I'm talking scatterbrain, because I'm in the middle of massive liner notes that will fill some pages up physically, and also damn near just make a blog just long as hell.
You mentioned special guests on there and quite a lot. Now, Henry Rollins, Tom Morello, a couple of those
Brother
names.
Ali, DMC, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's Large Professor, Cormega, those are rap standard bearers, Ziggy Marley. So it wasn't like, okay, we're going to put together a collaborative effort album, but these are people who I've worked with, who I've done some things with on their records, and they just returned the favor. And they asked about it too, so we said, why not? So it will be interesting. And I think if anything, recording in this day and time in 2012 should be interesting. It should be the interesting venture doing it, and it should be as interesting listening to it and looking upon it. Although we're in a visual audio age, so there's no visual component to any of these, sonic displays as of yet, and they weren't made with visuals in mind, which is kind of different from how a lot of people make music today. They make it so So the sight aspect of it could be the reference point. This is just making some just straight out music and seeing where we go from here.
And staying true to the concept of an album, which is, you know, as the music world progresses in the digital age, is becoming less and less, isn't it?
I believe that the record industry has been in singles mode. It's been in a singles marketplace since 1999, maybe 2000. Really, 2001 since iTunes. And really, less is more. You know, even when the ringtones came about to be an indicator of, you know, why would a record seem to be 3 minutes when you can get it all in 30 seconds? But I kind of wanted to reach back into saying, well, this is something that people knew Public Enemy for, because we kind of like made the concept album mainstay in rap music and hip hop, and we're known for that. So instead of delivering one record with, you know, that gap of maybe 4 or 5 years since our last CD, I said either I'm going to do one song at a time, which drives me. I like releasing singles, or I'm going to do something that's going to just be the whole kit and caboodle, a real extensive task, you know, and that's why these two records, you know, made it a venture to make and get a ticket to ride, as the Beatles said, right?
Will you be performing them as complete bodies of work?
I have no idea. Like I said, I made these records with making 2 concise albums in mind to have them talk to each other. So everything else would be an aftermath. The visual aspect of it, the touring aspect of it, the conversations that will evolve out of it. We will see, you know. The other night down here in Melbourne, just, you know, myself and Flavor just checked out the greatest entertainer of our time, Prince. And I mean, he had so many songs that, you know, in rap music and hip hop over 25 years, we have a large catalog of songs, but he's the master to show us what we can do. So tonight, he's going to stop by the SB, and we're going to go do our thing and see if we learned anything from the master.
Yeah.
So when we have a new album or 2 new records, then comes the task of what do you play when you play live. So I think it will form its own discussion when it comes about. You know? It's not like we're going to release 2 albums so we could climb the charts and so we could have this hot hit single. It's not about that. We have to have that conversation come to us.
That was pretty amazing, that Prince gig the other night. Was that just jamming, you guys up there?
Yeah, we was just jamming.
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy just being in the audience. Flavor, who's an extrovert, you know, jumped up there and did 911 is a joke to Wild Cherries, play that music, funky music, white boy, and Prince and the band, they just tore that joint up, and I was happy. Then at the end, 3 encores later, you know, Prince was jamming on the bass, asking me to come up on stage. I was like, I mean, what do I do? So I had to pick the freestyle that I had to dust off an old one that was funky enough.
How long have you known Prince?
Professionally, since 1999, right?
Yeah.
We worked
Perfect.
together. Perfect time to work with him, right? And I did a song on his album, Rave to the Joy Fantastic, called Undisputed. And it was one of the great experiences of my life, hanging out with Prince for one day, cutting the track. And but you know, he showed Public Enemy the way, just how we can be independent, how we could not be chained to the masters, you know. So I've known him professionally since 1999, but you know, Prince has been in every aspect of our professional lives as a mentor to look at, as a template on what we should do. You know, as a DJ, we played his 1979 I Want to Be Your Lover record, so, you know, and from then on, you know, so ever since I was 19, you know, I've been checking this dude out.
Well, one of the more bizarre, I guess, on the surface collaborations you did last year was the one with Meatloaf.
Yeah, that was special. Simple. It was, you know, they were working on a record. Meatloaf was looking to have a rap component on his record. He was trying to figure out, well, he knows Ice Cube, he knows Ice-T, but he was kind of looking for a different feel, and he asked his engineer Paul Crook, you know, some ideas, and he said Chuck D, and he said, okay, how do I get in touch with him? Well, you know, he's a friend of your son-in-law's, Scott Ian of Anthrax, and Scotty called me up, and he said, hey, this is the deal. I said, wow, it's cool, and then I knocked out my vocals, and there it is. I'm a type of recording artist. I love challenges. I don't record because it looks easy to do. I don't record on things that are obvious. I want the challenge. I don't want the convenient, pretty music that's anybody can get on. I want the hardest, maybe the ugliest template, or maybe the most difficult, something that looks like it's destined to not work. I'm interested in trying to tinker with it, to try to twist it back into a direction that people would kind of like look at and say, whoa, okay.
We just had the sad news of the passing of Adam York. From
Adam York, yeah. Chuck Brown today.
Mm-hmm.
The great go-go band leader.
Yeah. Mm.
And Adam York, of course, my good friend.
Yeah.
And then Donald Duck Dunn of Booker T and MGs.
It's been a tough month, hasn't it?
Well,
yeah.
You know, the older you get, you're going to find out that, you know, more people, especially in these times where everybody seems to be magnified from music, they'll be dropping because of the magnification, and you notice them, and so you're going to notice when they leave.
Mm. With Beastie Boys and the Hall of Fame, that must have been a real honour.
Yeah, it was special, because I think it was definitely Adam who reached out to have it done, as well as Ad Rock, Adam Horvitz, and Mike Diamond, Mike D, and they all did. But in the past, Adam would be the first and foremost guy to reach out to me, and I know he had something to do with reaching out to me as this being a wish, and that's what made it even more heartfelt.
When did you first hear that he wasn't going to be at the Hall of Fame?
I heard that he wasn't going to be at the Hall of Fame maybe a week before, when I was forming the script. And I heard of his death upon getting off the plane to start this tour. You know, my wife texted me and said that he passed.
As you arrived in Australia?
Yeah. I got into Sydney and boom, got all these texts.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter texted me and, you know, sorry about the loss of your friend. And I'm like, and then boom, it just hit me.
Yeah, it's real tough for a couple of weeks. Mm. You're very, very much into entrepreneurial, the digital age. You've been involved with, quite a lot of the .com companies over the years. When did you first start getting involved with that?
Well, I got involved with the .com companies or the digital world as a necessity, because rap music has a very piss-poor infrastructure, if any at all. And so I found in the mid-'90s, if I was to cut a track or shoot a video, I had to go to these corporations for approval, to get to an audience that I knew would like it because they were my audience. And there was no other way around this middle monstrosity. So I said it had to be a better way I could circumvent this crap. Mm. And it became even difficult being involved with Universal at a time of you create something and you have all these naysayers in the same building that figure out that they've figured out how the other side thought before they submitted. So I got to go through my building, and then the building got to go through submitting. It just got crazy. Like, you would see logos, blurred out, and MTV would tell you to, no, we can't accept this. You got to take it back. And I just thought that, this is the beginning of my end here, doing by all these rules. I want to go through this industry with a baseball bat and just smash, things. So that my involvement with the digital world became as almost as a refuge for my artistic passions, to release and to cut. And when I found out online where you can like cut a song one night and deliver it the same night to an audience that had the capability to check out something and to receive the whatever audiovisual signal that you had, I said, man, this is better than this you know, you go into a studio, you get a purchase order, you know, and you finally come out of there, and then you got to go through all this red tape in your own building. I just said, that's, you know, although they was like starting to pay, you know, volumes of money to people in rap music, I just thought it wasn't for me.
One of the more interesting ones that I've been looking at, uplayer.com, which is a very fascinating way for artists to, and just to explain it, an artist can upload their song into uplayer, and it sort of gives them an indication as to whether the song could potentially be a hit or not.
Yeah, that's David Meredith out of Savannah, a good friend of mine. And so, you know, we hope that there's enough traction there to actually be a necessary component of where we're trying to go as artists with no infrastructure in hip-hop and rap music, and technology could probably provide that.
Can you see yourself at one point not being a performer, being a businessman?
You're a performer and a musician forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be jumping around as high as I do now, or Flavor be jumping around as high as we do, but you know, we're the Rolling Stones of the rap game. If the Run DMC is the Beatles, we're the Rolling Stones, and we're still around. And you know, I don't know if I'm Mick or Flav's Mick and I'm Keith or he's Keith or whatever, but the music keeps you going.
You're doing some interesting things live, and I know you've talked about making basically what you're doing with Public Enemy Live, what has happened in classic rock. Turning that into, I guess, classic hip-hop.
Yeah, well, we have www.hiphopgods.com. And it's where classic rap goes on and on, and on and on, past the break of dawn. And the thing is that when hip-hop got kind of adopted into the kind of mainstream as pop, then they kind of like, you know, they do to it just like they do with a lot of things. It's like, okay, we got to just shave off what makes it what it is in the first place. And I grew up in New York with the creation of classic rock, where they tried to come up with radio stations that supported the Beatles or Zeppelin, as opposed to the Framptons. And no knock, but at that time they said, well, this has got to be different than, you know, Peter Frampton or even Meatloaf at that time, who was the main guy. But they say, well, you know, we want to go into playing some Jerry Lee Lewis or Beatles, and so that became like an industry with its own little infrastructure of classic rock, and then you have to graduate into classic rock from being contemporary, mainstream. But growing up, I said, well, if hip hop doesn't have an infrastructure, classic rap can. And so we built www.hiphopgods.com. We also have an internet network called rapstation.com, which is radio shows, radio stations that are networked into one nonstop streaming mechanism that we're going to be really solidifying, especially with the launch of this album.
Yeah, that was sort of the start of you, I guess, moving into the online environment.
Yeah, Rap Station in 2000, and we retooled it in 2011 to be more purposeful on the radio visual end instead of being an all-encompassing world. But it's a clever URL to have.
Could that become like a terrestrial radio or a satellite radio station as well?
Yeah, that's the goals real soon. Hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, I mean, you know, you can access it, but you know, with an app, and also for it to be streamed 24, along with archiving. That's the goal. I mean, I do a radio show in New York on terrestrial station WBAI, which is listener supported, but a powerful signal across New York. It's legendary, been around 60 years. But on our feed, we, you know, webcast around the world on rapstation.com. And the name of the show is And You Don't Stop. And it works like, it's really comprehensive. You know, it really explains hip hop as well as playing it. Because to me, hip hop has a problem by just, it throws music at people and doesn't bring new listeners in with information, and it doesn't keep the older ones. So that's something to work on. Because I mean, a genre is only as good as its total, you know, world around it to continue to tell people how great it is and what is what. You know, that's what makes sports so big. It's not just the players. Sometimes it's the whole aspect of the game.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot happening in the world of Public Enemy and Chuck D, and we'll go on to debate whether you are Keith or whether you are Mick. We'll work that one out later on. Chuck D, it's great to have you here at Noise 11.
Thank you.